of you who may, thank you, there we go. For some of you who have been to these sessions before in the past, you may have covered some of these elements I'm going to be looking at tonight, and it may just be a good little recap for you. And for those that have not come along tonight, hopefully it's something new that you can introduce into your setting. We're looking tonight at creative presentations. PowerPoint, fantastic tool, don't get me wrong, it's absolutely wonderful, but it's starting to go the way of the OHP, the rollable blackboard. It's starting to become a little bit stale. And one of the big things we're looking at is going, well, how do we get more collaboration? How do we get more engagement from our learners, from our sessions? What can we do? And one of the things that's quite important, especially in our roles, is this idea of going, where do I find the time to do this? Now, all the tools that I'm going to be showing tonight are add-ons that you can use existing slides that you've already created and use them in these different tools, Neopod, Google Slides, Pear Deck, and some of the Chrome Web Source stuff and Mentimeter to go, oh, I can just adjust what I've already got and make it collaborative. So it's not about recreating everything from scratch. It's making stuff that you've already got that next level up. So the tools tonight, I will start off by looking at Neopod, and then we'll do a little bit of interaction with it. And then I'm going to be looking at Google Slides, because I know some of you use Google Slides. And we're going to be looking at the add-on for that, which is Pear Deck. And then if we do have time at the end, if I don't waffle on too much, we're going to go into Mentimeter, which is a nice little third-party app. Again, nice way to present some information and get that collaboration. Many apologies. If I do go too fast with anything, please do not hesitate to pop something in the chat box and say, oi, Jules, please slow down or repeat that. I don't get offended. And if you do have any questions about how could this work in my setting, or can it do this, could it do this, please put it in the chat box. These sessions are designed to support you in your practice, not just for me to go, here are some wonderful tools. That's pointless. How can you make it relevant to yourself? So I will just get started. I will share my screen too. If you can see screen two, what I'd really appreciate is if you can just whack a little thumbs up reaction or a thumbs up in the chat box. And if anyone's finding any difficulty with seeing screen two, then please let me know again in the chat box. Wonderful, few little thumbs up coming in, which is always appreciated. So the first tool I want to look at is Neopod. Now, some of you may have used Neopod before. It's fantastic. What I'm looking at tonight, though, is the free version of Neopod. One, because I'm a cheapskate, and two, because I want to have it that we can all use it. You may use it occasionally, you may use it again, and paying kind of £20 every month for a tool is quite a lot of money by the end of the year. Now, the free version of this that I will be looking at, all the features I show you, you can get access to for free. Now, Neopod, you sign in with a Google account. So Gmail is absolutely fine, or if you've got a Hub account, that'll work perfectly fine as well. So you can log in with Neopod for this. Now, the first thing I want to do on this is I want to create a presentation. Now, there's two ways that you can do this for creating a presentation. If you want to make one from absolute scratch, you can. So on your main home screen here, we can just go to create, and we're going to create a lesson. Now, if I go to create a lesson, what it's going to give me is this screen here. Now, I've got a few options I can do here. I can go to add content and activities, and I can add a slide in. So the slideshow that it has on here, very much like your very basic PowerPoint that you will see. So you still have your design down the right hand side, and you can add in your text, and you can put in your learning outcomes. It does have a few little features where you can add a video in there, so you can upload a video, or you can add a YouTube video in there, which is quite nice. And it has the ability to add images, change the background, and even add audio. So if you want to record audio, so your own voice, you can add that in as well. This is quite useful, especially if you want to make something bilingual. It's a bonus over the basic PowerPoint package in that I can have the slides and then I can record my voice over them. Useful again if you want to use this as an asynchronous tool for students. Once I've made my slide, I'm then just going to go down to the bottom. I can either save and I can add another slide, or I can just save. There we go. And what that does there is it just creates my basic slide. There we go. Now, one of the key things that I said right at the start is that we want to be making our current slides that we have interactive and engaging. And making these from absolute scratch may be very, very time consuming for all of us. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to go back to my main home screen. And I'm going to make an interactive, I'm going to go back to it, there we go. I'm going to make an interactive session using slides I already have. This time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to create, and I'm going to go to create lesson. Now, when you come up to the top here, it will say untitled lesson, and we're going to give it a name. So I'm going to call this one EDS 415 session 9. Just always useful for me to help. Now this time, I'm going to upload files. Now, if I go to upload files, I can either upload from a file, so I can go to my desktop. So I'll just pick this slideshow here. Now it does have a maximum file size. If you have a presentation with huge amounts of pictures in it, like this one has, it may be good to go back and reduce it. You've got a 10 megabyte size allowance. So let's pick a slightly smaller one here. So now I've picked a slightly smaller file size. If you do want to know how big a file is that you've got, then you can just go into the desktop, right-hand click, go properties, and it'll tell you how large that file is. So what this is doing right now is it's processing this presentation. It's taking my existing slides and it's adding them in. Now, there are a few things that I have to make you aware of. Firstly, if you have any animation on your slides, such as the text appears line by line by line, that will disappear with this feature. That's one of the things about dropping the PowerPoint into Neopod. It's a little bit of a limitation, but that's just to make you aware of. So if you do like to have slide by slide by slide, that does disappear. So now my presentation is uploaded into this session here. Now what we can do here, let me just click there. I can see the size of my file. At the moment, I've got it as 268 kilobytes. I've got loads and loads of room. Now I can start to play around with it. Now, the first thing with this is, just as the basic PowerPoint, it's quite easy if I want to shift slides around. If I want to move slides, I just hold down the left-hand button and I can drag them around and move them as and where I see fit. So you can do that. It's quite a nice feature. Sometimes I find this a little bit easier than I do with the PowerPoint down the line, because you're moving around this. I can clearly see my story that I'm trying to tell in my presentation. But I want to add some activities for my students. So I'm going to go to add content and activities. I'm going to kind of guide you through the whole host of bits and pieces that we have available. So when I go to add content and activities, let's look at the activities that I can include. So the first thing I want to look at is this collaboration board. Now, in the previous sessions, I've gone through how to use Padlet, how to use sharing boards, and this is integrated. The benefit I always find with Neopod over some of the other tools is that it saves me having to go from a slide to work to the internet and then open up a new tab and then move this and move that. This is all in one unit, and this is quite a nice little feature. So let's take my board. I'm going to give it a nice little theme. For some reason, I've said something on my Alexa's decided to talk to me, but that's okay. So let's give the board topic. So how are we feeling today? Tell me how you feel. So say that's my opening activity. Now I can add some little bits and pieces here for the students. I can add a video, I can add an image if I want to. If I want to add an image, I can, you know, there we go. Let's go feelings. Now it's linked quite nicely to Google. There we go. So I've just added a little picture. Again, think of this as well. If you're doing any sort of like literacy program or art program and you want to add a picture and then get them to share some words around it, nice little add-on feature here. Now, on this at the moment, we can see nothing. Because what we're going to have is this will then go out to the students. They'll be able to share their thoughts. Now they can either upload text, they can upload a picture, they can upload a recorded video that they've done, even they can do a voice recording if they want to speak instead of writing, and that can be shared to this collaboration board. It's a nice way of doing it, especially if you're doing like a project and the students may want to add that. Caroline's asked a great question. Can you add Google Slides documents as well as PowerPoints? Yes, you can, Caroline. You can add Google Slides to it perfectly fine. Great question. Thank you very much. Who can use this with Google Classroom? Can you use this with Google? Sorry, I got us. Can you use this with Google Classroom? Yes, you can. And I will be showing you how to share this later on with Google Classroom. Absolutely perfectly. Great question, Helen. Thank you very much. So what we can do now, this is one of my favorite things. And actually, when I've had my student teachers using it, they've always had a little bit of worry and panic about the collaboration board, especially with the unrulier students. But what I can set as a teacher, remember this is teacher mode, I can go to student options and I can do a couple of things here. I can approve the student posts. Now, the nice thing about this means if a student decides that they want to put, you know, Jules is in Egypt on a post-it note and put it on the collaboration board, it will go on there, but no one else can see it apart from me, the teacher. I can also see who wrote it and I can delete it straight away. More than likely, I'll keep hold of it and then find out who the unruly student is. Also allows them to edit their responses if I want to. So say they put something in, they want to go back and they want to make a change, I can allow that. I also have the ability to make it anonymous or with people's names. And this is quite a nice tool if you've got students who maybe lack a little bit of confidence maybe at first to share in a group. If you say to them, this is an anonymous tool, so your ideas are really just for everybody, that's a nice little feature. The good thing as well is that when you do present this in your tutor mode, you will be able to see who put what. So in tutor mode, you'll still have access to see who's put the different comments, who's put the different statements, and you can do it at a later stage. Once we've done that, we're just going to go save. And what that's done now is it's added this collaboration board. We go down to it, there it is there, as a slide. And all we do is we move it up to where we want this collaboration board to go. There we go. And we put it there. We go, there's the first slide. Then I want my collaboration board. Then I'm going to go into whatever my assessment activity is there. So it's integrated. Let's look at what other content we can add. Let's go to my activities. Let's say I want to put a little drawing activity. Now, I always like this drawing activity. At first, I thought it was a little bit of a, you know, bit pointless. But actually, it was a feature that when they've added some more bits and pieces, I thought, oh, this is actually really useful. This could actually be really beneficial. So the first thing it's got here with Neopod, they've started to add these new little activities. So say, for example, I want to go to, let's go to the science one. It will give me some potential activities here that I could go for. It will maybe I want to go to an English arts and it will pick some little bits and pieces and they can then draw on these pre-made icebreaker activities. It's quite good if you just want to get a little quick activity in there to help you. But I'm going to delete that because I don't really want that one. So let's just reset that. Let's get rid of it. We'll cancel that. We'll add another one. So what I want to do now is I want to think about, well, where could this be useful in my class? I'm going to go back to add. I'm going to go back to my activities, back to my drawing. And let's say, for example, I want them to, let's say, for example, I work in a hairdressing class, something like that. And I'm going to have a blank face. And maybe I want, even if I want to do it as a session where they have to draw, how do they feel today? Draw on your person's face. There we go. And I hit save. Now you could also do maybe like circle the hazards in this room. Maybe you want to have a, label different parts of a heart, or, draw on what is an oxbow lake. That's what I remember from geography. But again, there's my drawing screen, and I'm going to add that. I'm going to put that after that slide there. Quite a nice little feature. Now, another thing that's always quite useful in here, I think, has got better as it's gone through, and some of you may find this useful, is Neopod 3D. Now, Neopod 3D are 3D models, which when you give them to the students can move around them on their own individually in your classroom, not just you in charge of it. And they've got some really good different 3D models that you may find useful in your class. So if we say, let's go to the respiratory system, let's add that one in there. And what I'll do is, let me just move it up. I'll put it where I want it to go. There we go. And I can actually preview this. So if I preview and show you what the 3D system looks like, again, think about this on your own classroom, on your whiteboard. I can, just by holding down the mouse, or if you've got an iPad, I can zoom in. Say, for example, I want to go into some 3D modeling. There's lots and lots of different pieces here, which you can use in your session to help with your class. There's loads of these different 3D models, and it is quite useful to look at. I know I was speaking to someone the other day, and they used there's one which is the muscles. So they went to human body, there it is, and they used the muscular system, skeletal system. You may want to go to ancient buildings. Loads and loads of these 3D activities. Great question that's asked there. Are these available in different languages for MFL students? At the moment, not. At the moment, it's still American English. It's an American company that does it. But what I would say is the benefit here is that you can add the voiceovers, but the text is still in English, I'm afraid. So sorry about that, but good question again, Helen. Send them an email. Say, do it in Welsh. So next up here, let's see what else we've got. I've got my polling tool. So let's go to my polling tool, because I like a poll system. It's always a good way of either as an initial assessment, even as a formative or summative assessment as part of my lesson here. So let's say, who feels happy with the assessment expectations? And I can put a few options here. Yes, easy. I can put here, no way. You also have the ability, if you want, they do have the mathematics that they've answered. So if you do want to have this as a maths task, and maybe you'll have a poll, which calculation, they have just added in mathematic functions for you to use in your setting. I can add an image, I can add a timer. So if I add a timer, I could do like a countdown until they complete it. That's good if you use it in a synchronous setting, but if you use it in an asynchronous class, that timer will disappear. So be aware of that. Let's go save. We're happy with that. Wonderful. Again, let's put our activity where we want our activity to go. So I'm going to put my activity, I'll put it after the 3D model. And let's go back to our final activities here. There's a whole host on here. They've linked up with Flipgrid if you want to add Flipgrid videos, which I've not set up for tonight, I'm afraid, but Flipgrid is coming, do not worry. You can add in time to climb. Time to climb is a quiz. So it's kind of like, it's still, time to climb is a lovely way of having a quiz. Think about the age group. But then again, I've had it before where the age group's not really mattered at all and they've loved it regardless. But what you do is you just put a series of questions in here. Again, they have got example ones already created. So let's do algebra in real life. Makes my job a lot easier. Brilliant. Hope someone knows the answer to that one. I can add another question in, but they've already put 8 questions in for me. Wonderful. We'll play this and see how many people get it correct. And we hit save. Now, time to climb, it's students work individually. And what they do is, as they answer the question, they move up this imaginary mountain. They have like a little character for them. But we've added that. So already we've taken our basic presentation. We've made it a collaboration board. We've added polling. We've added 3D modeling. We've added drawing. We've added a quiz. If we want to go further, we can add different elements such as there's simulations, there's science simulations, which again, I'll ask you to have a look into. This is something where you can really start to go into it. If you want to get some of these science diagrams, the great thing with these science activities is that they're very interactive for the individual. So you can take one of these, if we just put one in here, because I would like you to see how it's used. With regards to will it accept different accents, again, another great question there. What the best way to do that is to find out. Do you know what the alt number is for your accents there? Because what I'll do is I'll add a little activity. Yeah, do you just want to ping one in the text for me, if that's okay, Helen? Then I'll test if it works. So let's say I have it in an open-ended question. So if I just have it as a question here. Let me just have a look. Because again, this is why this is such an important element. Yes, there we go. So it does have accents in it. Whether it has the S set, I can't see that for German. Yes, it does have the S set. Well, no, they've got it as beta. That's me getting that completely wrong. So let's try. So Alt 183. No, it doesn't like that one. What I would say there, though, would be interesting is that maybe if what I will do is I'm just going to copy and paste. Sorry for this, guys. I'm going a little bit off kilter. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and if I add it into a Word document and copy and paste it in. So I'm just going to copy and paste one in from a Word document. There you go. Yeah. So if you have it already written on another document, so on a Word document, it will copy and paste with the symbols into Neopod. So that has worked. So let me just try. Yeah, actually, even your shortcuts will work on this one. So that works absolutely fine. So if you do want to add shortcuts in for different phrases, it does work. Thank you for that question. This is why the chat box is so useful, because I won't always have these little elements. Now, next up, I've made this session and I'm happy with it. I go, yep, that looks absolutely wonderful. I save it, I exit it. The next thing now is to think, well, what do I do with this? How do I get this out to my students? And that was one of the questions that came up earlier. So here's my library. Here's my session I've made. And I've got a couple of options with this. I can either share it with other teachers. So if I do the share with other teachers, it allows them to either embed it link it, use it for their own class. So say, for example, you go, oh, I've got this fantastic French lesson on Neopod. I can copy that, and that means that that teacher can then add it to their Neopod library, and they can deliver that session. Collaboration between teachers, that's what we want to see. But I've got two options here. If I do live participation, the maximum amount of students at one time in my classroom is 40 on the free version. If you have a class of 41 students, that one's just going to have to share, I'm afraid. So, sorry. But live participation is synchronous. Now, the benefit of the live participation, I've always found with slideshows, that the students can't skip across to the next slide. You, the tutor, are in charge of the pace of that lesson. You go through when you want to move through. When you've done the task, you're in charge of this. With student paced, that is for if you want to add it as a link into your Google Classroom, your Teams page. So if I go to student paced, what it does is it gives me this link here. So I can either hit Google Classroom, and what that does is, oh, sorry, it's opened up a, let me just get that one there. It's opened up a little window. There we go. So by hitting that Google Classroom, and then pick which class I want to add it to on my Google Classroom, and it automatically puts that into that classroom and says, a new assessment has been set for you. The students click that link and they are instantly into that classroom. So it's linked via Google Classroom. Same again for Microsoft Teams. I can also embed it if you use a VLE like Blackboard or Canvas or Moodle. I can embed it using an embed link, which is nice and there. Or I can copy the link and just drop it to them as an email. Now, the options here is that it requires student responses to prevent skipping. I can turn that on. That means that if there is a collaboration board, if there is a quiz, they have to go through, they have to give a response. They can't just go, done. I can turn that on. Now you have 30 days to allow this to work, but you can adjust it as well. If you want to open it for 2 or 3 days, I can adjust the diary dates for student paced. That means that I give them the code or I add it to Google Classroom, and it must be done within 3 days or 4 days or 5, up to a maximum of 29 days.
If I join in now, then I should be.
But we're going to just practice with a little bit of live participation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I would do this in a classroom setting. Right now, you're seeing my teacher screen. And what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to copy the link. There we go. And I'm going to put this link into the chat box. If you do want to engage with this, please click on that link in the chat box and you'll be into my session. Again, this is my teacher screen you're seeing right now, so you can see who is slowly coming into the session. So I'll wait for a few people to pop along just to show the process and how it looks from the student perspective. Hello, Julie, how are you? Hello, Caroline. I'll wait for a few more. The key thing as well is if a few students, Catwoman, wonderful, Big Owl, we like Big Owl, there we go. The good thing as well is if a student is late into your session, you want them to get involved, they still have a little code here at the top. And I can just, again, go, oh, just go on to neopod.com, there's the code, and they'll come in at the point that you're presenting. So for those that are on my lesson at the moment, you'll see that you're not able to move between the module. I have the ability to hide the student names or show the student names. I can also add an activity. If throughout my session, I feel like going, oh, the way the session's going at the moment, I'm just going to add a quick quiz or a quick open question. I feel that fits in well. I can add it in manually throughout. I can also open up a whiteboard. So if I need to explain something, I just want to pause the session and go, okay, guys, I'm just going to quickly go through this mathematical equation. I can still go to my whiteboard and then go back to my presentation. So let's move through. Here's my lovely slides. And I say, how are you feeling today? what I'm going to do is I'm also going to show you what it looks like with the approved student post. So right now you're seeing my teacher screen, but those that are coming through, good. So you can see here, I've got this X and I've got this tick. This is my teacher screen. The other students who are engaged can't see these, but if I go, yeah, I'm happy, that's a polite one. Yep, that's a polite one. But if I go, Rachel, I don't want to hear that. Get rid of that one. I can exit it, and that just gets rid of it, and it's gone. But I go, yes, fantastic. And then the great thing as well is, sorry, Rachel, I didn't mean that. It's just really rude of me. The good thing as well, again, with these collaboration boards, Helen, I believe you are very good, or you are good. Thank you, you're welcome. That's GCSE B in French, thank you. You've also got these little hearts. So that's quite a nice way if you want to either give somebody a little nice, or maybe you want to get them to approve little posts, or maybe you want them to go, oh, put a heart on the one that you think is a really good point that we can take forward in this question. So there we go, some nice little bits and pieces on our collaboration board. Let's move on. There's my slide, la 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 la. Let's move to our next activity. And now our next activity is the drawing activity. This is the great thing, because this is where we get to see the most incredible artwork going. And this time it's going to ask for the students to submit their picture. Again, this is the teacher screen right now, so I can see the amazing work that's being presented by the students. Rachel, there's some tired eyes there. I will show yours on purpose, Rachel, as I did exclude your thing there. Catwoman's gone for what looks like the Joker with some great green eyes. But again, think about how this could maybe work in your classroom. You know, maybe you do flags and they've got to color in what the flag looks like. You know, draw what you think the French flag is. The good thing as well is, as the teacher, I can click on one and I can go, oh, look at this. This is a fantastic picture of, you know, a person. That's what hide the student name looks like as well. There are some people here who are very good with art, but that's lovely. That's really nice. That's a good piece of work. So thank you for that. So remember, this is what the student sees. They've got highlighter, they can add text, they can add pictures, they can draw, and they can change the color. So they've got quite a few features there to really play with. Let's move on to our next screen, la 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 la. And here we've got our 3D model. So those that have got access to it and have logged in, you'll be able to see how you can interact with it. Again, as the teacher, if I want to, I can go, oh, I'm just going to guide you through. See who can find the that's my knowledge, which is it's in that picture. So those that are playing on it right now, the aorta, thank you for that, Helen. So you can start playing around with it. So those that are engaged, you can see how this could be something quite interesting for them. They can still pinch and they can still move a bit like they would elsewhere. Fantastic. And then I'm gonna go, remember, got my whiteboard, say I want to go, hang on a second, let me just explain what these, that's a lung, that's another lung, and bits and pieces. So I can still be in charge of my session. Next slide. This is my open quiz. This is my poll. So I can go to my teacher screen and I can see how people are feeling. Maybe I just want to have it as a little step-by-step at the moment, get them to put some feedback in there. And I can share responses. And they can see. Again, nice little step-by-step element here. Go through my session. This is the, I believe this is the, there we go. This is the time to climb quiz. So these are the quizzes that they have here. I'm going to turn off the sound for you guys. So this is what that time to play looks like quiz. If you are interested in maybe adding an interactive quiz element, So as the students log in, they get to pick an avatar. There we go. And then I can start the game. I'm just going to turn the sound off for me personally, but it's a game. It's a little bit of fun. You can add your own questions in, of course you can, but it kind of livens up that mid presentation or that mid lesson. You go, John, I'm just going to add this in. I've already got it already loaded up. It's something that's been dropped in. I can see how they're going. And they answer the questions. And once they've all answered, there we go. Fantastic. And that's everybody done. And as you'll see, what happens on the next screen, it moves on to the next question and they go through. I am going to move on though, because we don't have time for this. These are the interactive simulators that I was talking about. There's a few bits here where the students can interact, they can play with them. There's lots of little features on here. I'm not going to try and blag it and say I know what any of this is doing. That's your guys' job, but there's some lovely bits and pieces here that they can quite interactive for the students. Lovely, and they can play around with this. Go through my lesson, lots and lots of stuff. And then I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave my session. I've done this nice presentation, this nice collaborative one. So what's the next step? And this is the next step now. The thing I always liked about Neopod is the use of the reports. Now, again, going back to my home screen, I can go to my reports. It will give me all the sessions that I've ever run, because I've used this quite a few times. Here we go. This one I've delivered 3 times using Neopod, going back to 2018. And what it will allow me to do is go to that session. I can see the student. I can see what answers they gave in the poll. I can go to, say, the open-ended quiz. I can go to the drawing. I can go to the collaboration board. Again, if I go to the classroom board and I go to view only, I can save this board, maybe use it somewhere else. So just take what I normally would do is just take a screenshot of it or a sort of screen clipping. And it allows me to do that. I can also download it as a PDF. So if I download it as a PDF for session view, it will save it to my local drive. But what this means is I've got that report constantly there. There we go. Of each session that I've run, how it's been, how it's engaged. So I can track the progress of that class. And that's really the main features of Neopod. Can you import software and graphics to Neopod? You can import graphics to Neopod that you already have. So you can upload images and graphics that you have. With regards to software, not that I know of at the moment. It's still quite basic, and it's some of the features. It's only just got the mathematics symbols in there. But graphics, yes, you can embed them in. If you've got like a software tool, you can embed links. So maybe you want to put a link in there that takes it somewhere else. But thank you for that. Any other questions at all about Neopod? Please pop them in the chat box and I will wet my whistle. Everything I've shown tonight is free. And does it work on an iPad? Yeah, it's perfect for an iPad. With the iPad, there's a couple of things. The students can either download the neopod.com app, so Neopod, download the app, and then they just put the code in. Or if you send it as a link or it's on Google Classroom, it'll open up in Safari and work through their browser. So it works on an iPad, it works on a Kindle, it works on most Android devices, even works on your mobile phone. So when I use it in my classroom, I've got so one of my lecture theatres, I've got about 85, 90 students, and I've had them all on Neopod. And it worked an absolute treat, and they've had it on their mobile phones. They've had it on lots of different devices around the room. So it does work really well for that. Any other questions? Pop them in the chat box. If not, I'll move on to my next Ujima flip. We need to freeze the screen if presenting and don't want the class to see the other responses. So with that one, with the collaboration board, you can wait to approve all of the posts. That's a key thing there. The screen itself is always in control of you, so it can't move to the next slide unless you move to the next slide, unless you make it student-based, which is for Google Classroom. It does require students to have a device, so if they don't carry it. However, it's still quite, you can still use it yourself, especially with I think the 3D modeling is really good. If you've got a great session on PowerPoint that you've already used and you want to add 3D modeling, and you've only got one computer, it allows students to still see it and visually interact with it. So that's always good there. This is also a great tool, like I said, if you're setting homework for them, it is really useful for that. So if they're at home and they've got a device, they can have an interactive homework task. It's mobile friendly, works on, I had students who had it on Google phones, iPhones, and other Android phones, including Samsung as well. So works a treat. Okay, now my next tool that I'm going to go through is an add-on tool. Now, this is the one I'm going to show tonight is Pear Deck. Now, Pear Deck is an add-on very similar to Neopod, but for Google Slides. What you'll need to do though to get Pear Deck is go into your Chrome web store. So on your Chrome browser, let me just spell that correctly, because I've already got it added in. It won't include it on this list here because I've already got the main extension. But you'll type in Pear Deck into your Chrome web store, and then that, once you click on it, is added to Chrome. So for this next one, it's a free add-on. The basic package is free. I'm only going to show the free stuff because cheapskate. But that gets added to Chrome. So this next tool can only be used through Google Chrome. That's the key thing to remember this one. Again, I want to make you aware of the limitations of different tools. But Pear Deck is a nice way of taking, if you use Google Slides as an interactive medium already. Now, two things to remember with this one. If you use, so say we got this one here is a PowerPoint file. If you use a PowerPoint file and upload it to Google Chrome, to Google Slides, Pear Deck will not work. Again, this is something to consider. If you make Google Slide presentations, Pear Deck will work. So if I just quickly show, so this is one that I've uploaded a PowerPoint one. So it's a PPTX. You're going to see up here, there's no bar that says add-on file. That's because this is a PowerPoint file. Now, if I go back to this one here, which is I've uploaded as a Google Slides file, you can see now I've got add-ons. So my add-ons will only work with Google Slides. Now, if you do have a PowerPoint that you want to make into a Google Slide file, so let's go to a blank presentation. What you would need to do is go to Insert. Well, easiest way to do that is Sure, I had this earlier and I have no idea where I've decided to put it. You can add in PowerPoint slides into it. Yeah, you can convert and save a PowerPoint as a Google slide, but the easiest way to do it is just to add your slides in. There. You can insert a slide, and I've got to find out where that is because I have lost that off the top of my head. Because I have also had a Rachel Better long day. So I will find out where that is and I will show you how to do that. But you can add slides into it from a PowerPoint presentation. I'm just going to see if I can do this just manually, really. I think that's probably normally the easiest way. So if I take a PowerPoint slideshow that I already have. No, doesn't like it. I will find out how to do this. I will have to remember how to do it because I've had a long day. But you can add that in, but you've got to make sure it's a Google slide file firstly. That's the key thing there. So if I go to my Google Slide session, I've added Pear Deck to my Google Chrome, and I'm going to go to Add-Ons. Go to Add-Ons, and I'm going to go to Pear Deck Slide Add-Ons. Now, Pear Deck is very similar to some of the features of Neopod. It has text, it has collaboration boards, it has number, it has polling. But there are quite a few of the premium features here, but it's quite useful if you use Google Slides and you just want to add something to it. So say I've got this section here. Let's take this one here. There we go. There. And I want to add in a choice. So what I can do here is I'm going to put in a choice question. In the new presentation, select file, then import slides. Thank you. So just a quick one while I remember. So go to file, import slides, of course. Thank you, Alice. I really much appreciated. That way I can upload slides that so if you do have a PowerPoint presentation, you want to add it to Google Slides, make it a Google Slides file. You go to file and then import slides. Thank you, Alistair. Really appreciate that. There we go. So now we've added our slides in. So again, if we go to I've added a choice on here. It then gives me my question. So maybe I have, I want to go feeling great, ropey, and forgetful. I can now add it to my presentation an interactive question to this. If I go to my next session, I can add a number question in here. So the number question, either they type something in, so again, it could be like a poll, or it could be just a number to get a rough idea. So again, what you'd have is you'd write the question on your slide, and then you'd add that for them to then play with. And there's a text element as well. So I can add them to do a collaboration board. I can get them to share their own feelings and their ideas. And they can write their response. Now, with this one here, I've got a few options. I can either start the lesson and have a student paced or instructor paced. Now, at the moment, the free version of Pear Deck doesn't link straight to Google Chrome, doesn't link to Google Classroom. It did at the start of the lockdown because they realized that they want to get you hooked. But what you can do with this is you can just share that link that is there. So I can give the students a link and I can copy that into Google Classroom. And that allows the students to then engage and take part in your lesson without having to shell out for Google Classroom. What I can also do with this is I can do it as tutor paced. So it still has the exact same features. Start the lesson, and I'm going to go instructor paced. So real time, and with this one. Do you have a preference for Pear Deck or Neopod? Neopod every day of the week. Neopod, I think, is just, I think you've got far more features for the value. I think it's a little bit easier to play and edit and move the slides and add questions to by a million miles. Pear Deck, I think, is good. And I know a lot of settings want you to use Google tools only. And that's why I've added Pear Deck in as a section there. But if you do have a school which is like, you can use any tools you want, really. If they're free, they're safe, and they're user friendly, then I would always go Neopod every day of the week. Again, with this one, the tutor paste, I just give the students a link and I can type that in and share that on their page. Thank you for that, Julie. Great question. Now, once you've done a session, what I can do is I just go back into the Pear Deck home. I can go to my sessions and I can go to ones that have previously been delivered. So I can click into the file here. I can go, yep, there's a student's. I had 18 on that one. And what I can do here is I'm just going to view who was involved, their email addresses, and I can go into it and I can see the responses. So it's a lot different from neopod.com. So you can see how, there we go. That's how the responses look. I think with neopod.com, the fact you can download it as a PDF or you can go through a little bit easier. There we go. Still has quite a few of the features, but I think Neopod is far more straightforward to use as Pear Deck. But that's really the key features of using interactive presentations and interactive tools. Pear Deck for using on Google Slides. But again, if you do have a Google Slideshow and you want to add a lesson, then I would always be using Neopod if I had that ability. If you have any questions at all about any of these sessions today, please do not hesitate to ask. I'd be more than happy to answer them. Pop them in the chat box and I will show how I can support you as much as possible. But hope that's been useful. Hope that's got some ideas for you to go away and make some changes to your sessions potentially. Just while you're doing that, I'm just going to try something off screen. If you have any questions, put it in the box. That'd be wonderful. So I will, now I've logged in, sorry, I just had to put some passwords in. So one of the things that someone asked was, can I use Google Slides on Neopod? Great question. So if you do, very much like again, so I want to go add, not add new, sorry. I'm going to go to, I'm on Neopod right now. I'm going to go upload files and go to Google Drive. So they've got to make sure they're stored in Google Drive. So it's just logging into my Google account at the moment. There's my slideshow. Select that one. And I'm going to upload it as individual slides. So it's taken my Google slides and add them into Neopod for me to use. There we go. So if you do use PowerPoint, if you do use Neopod, both of them work in exactly the same way. I just wanted to double check. So that's good. Like I said, when I've used Neopod with primary school children, secondary, I've worked with adults. I currently teach with higher education and master's students. And at first I thought, well, it's a little bit childish, but you know what? They absolutely love it. I think the biggest thing with all of these is that PowerPoint has suddenly become something a little bit more interactive, something that they can engage with and they can start to really play with. And it's they're part of the lesson rather than that didactic top-down approach, which is a little bit boring. One of the other benefits I found of this is in one of the classes, the student teacher, she liked to give the students the slides beforehand. Well, what students were doing was they were going slides ahead. She would ask a question, they'd give her the right answer. She'd be going, oh, they know already. And they don't, they've just scanned through to all the slides. With the teacher pace, she's still in charge of the lesson. She can pause, allow for discussion, allow for a bit of engagement, check student understanding, and take it forward that way there. So it is a nice little feature. If you have any questions, please pop them in the chat box. More than happy to answer. If not, I hope you have a really lovely evening. Next week's session is looking at Google Keep, Microsoft OneNote, and Trello, looking at organization and kind of program leading tasks, really, both for students and for staff. So if you are looking at ways to make you more organized or make your students more organized in a collaborative manner, that's our intention for next week. So thank you. Check Eventbrite. I hope you all have a lovely evening. And thank you again, Alistair, for showing me the slide thing there. I had a moment. And Rachel, again, apologies for deleting your comment. It was a lovely comment that you put on the collaboration board. So many apologies. Lovely. Time for T&D. You look after yourselves, everybody, and thank you so much again for taking part in this session. This will be recorded and it will be available on YouTube once it has been completed and they've edited, they add some bits and pieces. They get rid of all my swearing.